This is the Twin Cities Real Estate Investing Show. Real stories, real success in Twin Cities real estate. Join your hosts, Adam Tafel and Tim Swierczek, as they dive into the world of Twin Cities real estate investing. Together, they share valuable insights and practical tips to help both new and seasoned investors navigate the Minneapolis-St. Paul market. With a focus on relatable stories from real people, this show will empower you with the knowledge and confidence to thrive in your investing journey. Guys, take it from here.
What's up today, Tim?
Hey, Adam. How you doing, buddy?
We got John Scribante today.
Yeah, one of our sponsors, property manager. John runs a property management business that is ideal for clients like ours because it's like single family through like fourplex, and he's got a few sixplexes. So he's not doing the big apartment, huge complex commercial property thing. He's doing, a high touch version of what, like a, high touch version of single family to small multifamily property management.
Yeah, and he's got good perspective, and we're very aligned on like, what is this all about? Why are we investing in real estate? Yeah. He's got some good takes on this whole thing. He's got a lot of experience. He's a smart guy and a good speaker. So yeah, I think you guys will enjoy the episode. Here's John. Investors, if a deal gets messy, call Network Title. They can handle the BRRRR, the 1031, mixed use, commercial, whatever it takes, so you can close on time. Mentor of mine, guy who I really respect, Kirk Duckwall, says working with Network Title is kind of like having another personal assistant. That's how on the ball these people are. Network Title, complex deals made simple. Link in the show notes. One of the hardest parts of investing is finding a solid property manager. I've worked with plenty over the years. Some are better than others. Earlier this year, I did a 10-unit deal where John and his team at RPM Viking handled the management for our mutual out-of-state client. They were professional, they were responsive, they delivered exactly as promised. Now they are my #1 management referral, and I'm proud to have them supporting the show. Learn more at rpmviking.com. Use the code TCREI300 for $300 off maintenance services when you sign up with RPM Viking as your property manager. Thanks for sponsoring the show. Welcome to the Twin Cities Real Estate Investing Show, brought to you by Shook. Shook is the all-in-one platform to help you manage your rentals, built for real estate investors just like us. Shook offers lightning-fast ACH payments. I just got a few properties set up with Shook, and I'm getting paid way faster than my old service. They can also do custom things, like if you need to pay a manager a percentage, they can take care of that. The staff at Shook, Oliver, and the team are just so awesome to work with, and we want to thank Shook for sponsoring the podcast. At $5 per unit per month, it's totally worth checking out shookrentals.com to book a live demo. In the show notes, we're also offering a discount of 20%. Use the code TCREI20. Thank you.
Infill lots.
Yeah.
And then
you build new, or you have
a
contractor?
Yeah. Well, I have a contractor that does that. And it's just the last two I did was that way. And I did one lot and then did an HPR, subdivided it, built a little HOA, and built 2 houses on one lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you sold those to flip, or those?
No. I got them a long-term rental.
Okay.
Yeah. Buying houses at valuations today for investors is a little challenging. So you can buy a crappy old thing and fix it up and force some equity in it.
Yeah.
Or you can take it one step deeper and just buy the land and build it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did on the last one.
We're rolling, dudes. What's up, John?
Good morning. Thanks for having
Scribante.
me. Scribante.
Nice.
Yeah. John and I were introduced. A client of mine found you on Google.
Bigger Pockets.
Bigger Pockets.
I think it was Bigger Pockets.
Cool. And California couple. Tim wanted that deal too, that 10-unit contract for deed deal.
Oh, yeah, that one, yeah.
In Whittier.
if they're listening, I just told you that if they back out, I'm taking it with a kind of hunky. But you're right. I did want it. I think they got a good deal, and they didn't think they got a good deal at first, right? Maybe they do now.
I think it's human nature to never think you get a good deal, because I don't think I got a good deal on anything I bought, which it can't be the case.
Yeah.
But it was not something normally in John's wheelhouse, right? What made you? Well, tell them about the deal, John.
Well, it was a 10 unit split on two. There were two side by side parcels, 100-year-old multifamily, a 4 unit, a 4-plex, and a 6-plex. Mm-hmm. And generally we're single family, and some duplexes. But with this particular deal is that you had a client that was really well focused on quality and tenant quality and the resident experience, and wanted to have a really nice rental property. And many times we come across people with 4s and 6s that it's like, you can't make sense out of the property. It's all chopped up or deferred maintenance and that. And so in this case, it was really just a good fit from that. Because to us, that quality of the client and their objectives, what they want to get out of it is, primary. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like kind of like Queen Anne style woodwork everywhere. Still what I would describe as chopped up, right?
Yeah. Well, but they were purpose built. They were purpose built. So, but that you're right. The rooms were a little. They made a third. They took the ballroom out of the third and made it part of a unit, and so it was a little chopped up.
Some wasted space in there.
When I first looked at the photos online, I'm like, oh boy, what is this going to be? And what I didn't realize is that they were in the midst of a reno on the outside, and we're doing a lot of upgrades and siding and repairs, and really did some good work on it.
Yeah, we got them new.
The new buyers were, or you're talking about the sellers were in the midst of that?
The buyers and the sellers. It was part of the transaction where it was negotiated in the deal.
Okay.
Yeah, we negotiated new boilers, new siding, bunch of just cleanup.
Yeah.
Yeah, California clients had never bought a real estate deal before, never even lived in a home that they own, and they're buying 10 units for 1.2 on a contract for deed, 10% down. So pretty cool.
We had a 4-plex block away, so I knew the neighborhood very well and the resident base to work with, so that made it a fit.
But yeah, then John and I got lunch. We just kind of clicked, and here we are. He's on our podcast, and you were a recent sponsor.
Yeah.
Yay. Thank you, John. Tell us about your business. Let's get that out of the way.
Well, to know my business, you got to know my story. And,
sure.
When I was in college 35 years ago, I met a guy that was developing golf courses out of cornfields. And I'm like, that's cool. You buy something cheap, you turn it into a golf course, you get residual income through the clubhouse and all that. I'm like, real estate seems like something I could be interested in. And so I had an opportunity in like my junior year of college. A fraternity brother of mine came to me and said, hey, I know you're interested in real estate. My uncle's got these 3 apartment buildings. You want to manage them? And I said, oh yeah, sure. How hard could that be, right? And they were 3 100-year-old chopped up Victorians with about 10 units apiece in each. And they were the kind of places where the bathrooms were down the hall. So they were rented out to low income, subsidized. And the owner.
Where were they?
This was in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay.
I went to Creighton University.
Okay.
And the landlord handed me a key ring with about 75 keys on it. And he said, collect whatever rent you can get, pay these bills, like the utility bills, the water bills and that. He said, you can keep anything else. You can keep the rest. I'm like, well, that sounds like a great deal. And then it really became real when, Friday night, you're at the pub with your buddies, you're throwing darts and shooting pool and having a drink. And you get, back then it was pagers. And so the pager would be beeping and it's like, oh boy. And, all of a sudden the heat's out on these things. And it turns out the heat was going out every week or whatever. And so that was my first introduction to property management, was just this terrible experience, but there was still there was a bug in me that just said, there's something to this. And then I made even a bigger mistake. I actually bought my college fraternity house. I put a limited partnership together and bought a house for my college fraternity. And so I was the landlord of a fraternity. And so
there's one for sale on University Avenue right now.
A fraternity house?
I think it's like maybe 1009 University Avenue Southeast or something like that. It's on Fraternity Row. I can picture it in my head, and it's on Crexie if anyone's interested. I think that address might be wrong, but that's what I have in my head.
Well,
989.
I don't know if I want to get back into that racket.
No, I've managed a fraternity house. So you don't want to.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Well, so then I got on with my career. I graduated finance and economics, and I got on with my career, but I still had this bug for real estate. And so over the years, I picked up a few rental properties and here and there, and then nothing significant, just some small single families and. When I did a startup over in Wisconsin. I moved over there, and we took the company public. And through that process, after we went public, I'm like, I got to put some money to work.
Yeah.
So I bought a motel down in Naples, Florida, and it was 1940s. 5 blocks from the beach, 2 blocks off the main, restaurant row there on Fifth Avenue, and converted it into like a family complex for people to come in from out of town, from Germany or wherever, Canada. They wanted a big, so we had these little cottages and stuff that I converted into, so that was a project. And then, when I was running the public company, we did a lot of factories and warehouses and sales office, a lot of transactions, buying and selling that stuff. So I just always had a lot of, interest in that. And then after I left, about 7 years ago, in 2015, 16, 17, I left the public company. I retired out of that. And I'm like, what am I going to do?
Real quick, what was your company? What did you guys do?
Orion Lighting. It was industrial LED lighting. I wound up with 30 patents through that journey and was the CEO of that company for 5 or 6 years before, 7 years before I left. But it was like sticking a pencil in my ear every day. It was not fun anymore. What was fun was when we were doing the deals and selling and working with clients, but Wall Street and analysts and bankers and investment bankers. The fun left. So
yeah, I've heard that the people who started Gander Mountain, right? The holiday, what is it, the Erickson family? Is that correct? The holiday people. Anyway, they started that, and they had from what I heard, from people who know them, they had a similar experience. And then the guy who started Caribou Coffee, who now owns Punch, he's been on podcasts and said something similar. It's like took all the fun out of the business.
I don't recommend going public. It's a great exit, but being the CEO of that post is not. I rang the bell on the New York Stock Exchange. I presented to the New York Stock Exchange. There's a lot of great life experiences.
Yeah.
But I was so over that, and but then I'm looking around. I'm sitting in my house over in Excelsior, wondering. I got to do something, right? And so
because you're set up financially at this point.
Yeah, I had a few dollars, and so I'm like, well, and I'm still a young guy, and I'm like, what could I do? And I had a couple of rental properties, and so I started looking around, and I'm looking for a property manager. I wasn't looking to get in the business; I was looking to get in real estate, but I was looking for a property manager, and I just couldn't find anything out there. I searched and I talked to a lot of people, and there was a lot of people that, sure, they could collect the rent and they can pay the bills and they can fix the fence and the garbage disposal and that, but nobody had a wealth focus. Nobody understood what I was trying to achieve, which was to drive wealth creation in my life. And it wasn't anything more than that. And I just couldn't find anything. And so that's when I concluded, well, I got nothing better to do. I know a little bit about, property management from my college days. I mean, and like I said, how hard could it be? So started the company, right now. So we're about 5 years in. We have over 300 single family homes and some duplexes and fourplexes and 2 sixplexes, I think. And when, we set out to build a property management company that was not like anything else out there. It was focused on wealth creation, and it was focused on high quality people running the business. You don't want to hire a cheap property manager. I mean, it's like getting a stupid dog. I mean,
Yeah.
They just it doesn't work.
Can you tell us a little bit about growing to 300 units? You start out and you have 0 units under management.
Yeah.
And you're obviously have like a sales gene in you. Like what was that like? I bet that was fun.
It was, it's like you get dressed in the morning, you put on your nice shirt, and you go to the office, and you're the only one there. So you act like you're more important than you are, and because I think you need to have that going into it. And it was just working the plan, just putting you start off advertising on Google, and you start doing those things, and you call up your friends, and you got a few realtor friends, and all of a sudden, you get one, right? And they don't realize they're their first one. I still have my very first client, and it was a duplex, and she found me, and kind of a high intense person, and I can deal with that. I mean, nobody's going to intimidate me, but it was just that experience of getting that first deal, and then you just build it from there. Then you have the confidence and that, and that there's a real business.
Selling property management services is not difficult. Like it's maintaining and creating the systems and keeping people happy is almost one of the hardest things in the world. But luckily for the property management salesmen, what percentage of people are kind of unhappy with their management company? It's an easy service to sell.
Yeah, selling it's easy. Keeping the client happy is the challenge.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I'm saying it doesn't surprise me at all that you were able to scale quickly because of, like you said, you couldn't find any property manager that impressed you enough. So that's what your competition looks like.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you were pulling from other management companies all over the place.
Very early on, there was one large one in town. I don't know if you want me to name names, but probably not. But
let's not.
Yeah. Okay. There was one large one in town that was going through troubles, and I was just picking them up left and right because people were just so frustrated. And so you're right. I mean, getting the call, as long as you have presence and people know who you are, they can find you. That's not difficult to do. It's keeping them, and even more important, it's not about keeping them so much as making sure expectations are clear on both ends. Making sure that we understand what you're trying to achieve and you understand how we operate.
Right. And the bigger you get, I mean, I think a lot of landlords come in thinking like they know they're great and their system is the way to do it. So they'll come in and they'll try to say, John, I want you to be my manager, but I want you to do it this way. And you can't run 300 properties, each one of them this way, right? So you've got all that going on, right? No, you have to fit our system, right? This is the way it has to be. This cannot work if I'm doing it your way. I have to do it my way. Here's my way, right? And then you have to find people that agree with that.
It's a strange business to think that your customer can tell you how to do it.
Yeah. But they do all the time.
They do, but any other business, it's like, if it's, I got a Starbucks coffee here or something, I'm not going to go in and tell them how I can tell what I want in my drink, but I can't tell them how to,
roast
what temperature,
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a great example, but you get what I'm saying.
No,
go
I
to the
do,
car
yeah.
dealer or go to the wherever, and, you go to the doctor. I mean, you're not telling them what to do. So, but in property management, and maybe to some degree in real estate, I mean, they don't tell you how to do it, right? In lending, right? I mean, you have your underwriters, your process.
I was just talking to a lender last night, and she was complaining about how a client was kind of trying to tell her how to do it. And she goes, "You don't get to tell me that." She said, she literally said, you don't get to have ideas.
Yeah.
And it was true because the customer kept trying to come up with these creative ways to solve the problem and it was making it worse. And she's like, your ideas suck. You don't get to have ideas. But anyway, yes, you're right. People try to tell us what to do, but the fact of the matter is I don't get to tell them what to do. I'm just following someone else's guidelines, right? Fannie Mae told me how it has to be done. I'm delivering the message to you, John, that yes, you have to document this even though you think it's silly.
And I think the reputation that when property managers, I think the reason why there's a lot of poor property managers and property managers that struggle and where owners struggle with property managers is because the property manager doesn't have the discipline to say, here are my standards, here's how we operate, here's our operational manual. And, my owner's manual is, 30 pages long. I mean, on how we do things.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, you will struggle because you're right. Every 300 different plans, 300 different expectations, it's a setup for failure. So taking it a little, it's difficult sometimes to get that across because people say, this is my property.
Yeah.
So do it my way.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm not your property manager then.
Right. I suppose that would be like if we walked in with our cup into Starbucks, right? Like you said, that's why that we feel it. We as a group of landlords feel entitled to say, you need to do this because I own this, right? And it's expensive, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I get it. But still, you bring your expensive SUV into the dealership. You don't tell them how to wax it, right? No. You just say, I want a wax job, right? Yeah. And they do the wax job the way they want, right? And we should come in and say, I want a profitable property, and then you get to come in. And
if you go in there with the polisher and everything and try and help them, or do part of it, that's the other one.
Yeah, I'm going to do the wheels.
You do the wheels.
You do the super hard part, and I'm going to say, do the wheels. And you can't charge me for the wheels anymore,
that's
right?
Yeah. And that's the other thing is, the maintenance, I think... most of my clients are the accidental landlord. They're not the purpose, and they're not the professional investor. I think the most that I have of any one client would be 10 units. I don't think I have any over that, and there's only a handful of those. Most of them have 1, 2, 3, or 4. And so they don't. They come to us not having a lot of background, and many of them have just either inherited the property because they moved and they couldn't sell it, or what have you. So you do have a client that many times doesn't understand that it's a business, that you can't just say, okay, here's the rent I need because my mortgage and my taxes and my insurance. You got to say mortgage, taxes, insurance, vacancy, replacements, maintenance, all these other things to really get to, what makes a good investment property.
I would love to have a property manager for certain properties of mine. I don't because I'm worried that all my costs will go up. And I think that's probably a lot of pushback you get because if I have something break, well, then I text one of the Miguels and maybe he'll invoice me. Maybe he even won't,
Yeah. Depending on how small it is, right?
Depending on how small it is. Because I have a relationship with these guys. And I think, you tell me, what's your rebuttal to that? And I'm assuming that's a lot of the pushback you get. People want to do their own repairs or they want you to use their guy.
Yeah.
And they see costs go up. And of course costs are going to go up because it's a convenience at the end of the day.
Well, it is. What would you charge me to come over to my house and fix my garbage disposal?
I'd need $300 to want to do that.
Exactly. And so
I wouldn't do it. I'd say call someone else.
Yeah. Right? Miguel would do it for $75 though.
Yeah.
Well, because it is a service. Yeah. It is, a lot of times it's, people think it's $5 in 5 minutes, right? And a lot of times it is. But to send a third party out to go do that $5 job. Now that's an hour trips back and forth. I got their labor rate, I got the van costs, I got the tool, all that, and then the time, of course. And so
And you're taking away from a different job.
That's right.
Maybe, probably, most likely.
Yeah. So when I talk to owners about the maintenance costs, the first thing, so I look at real estate investment, the way I model mine and the way I coach others is you got to do a year 3 model. Okay. Not the third, you got to do the 3rd year model, not the first year model, because the first year model is your survival year. You're going to be putting money into that house. You're going to be fixing it up, redoing the paint, fixing things, making upgrades. You just want to survive that year. The second year, you're stabilizing. You're getting the rents to where they need to be, because the first year rents are never your best rent, because you're just trying to fill the thing. You got vacancy, and it's like get somebody in there 10% below rent or market, maybe 20, just stop the burn. And then year 2, you're stabilizing, you're starting to get your rents dialed in, your resident, if you took care of them, renewed, now that's stable. And then year 3 is where you're getting the rents up, your costs are down. That's your model year to look at whether this investment is the right investment or not. Because you'll have a baseline for expenses, you'll have a baseline on all your costs. That's how you need to do it.
John, I like what you said there. I actually, I agree. And I usually talk about like there's a couple years where you have to get to know the house too. And it's a little bit of what you're saying. And one step I'll add to that is a lot of times you don't know the flaws in a house until you've been there, right? You can look at it, but and see like the construction and some things, right? But what kind of comes to me is I've had multiple houses that had poor insulation in certain areas, and we didn't know until there was a real cold snap. And I don't mean like 0, I mean like minus 25, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden it was like all the houses we bought in 2017, 2018, that winter, that December, matter of fact, that Christmas 2017, we had like somewhere close to 20 below actual temperature, and it exposed like about 3 out of the 5 houses we bought had a flaw that we didn't know when we bought them. Yeah. They all got fixed. The flaw never happened again, but I had some headache. That was a year 1 thing. It could end up being a couple years down the road. Yeah. The other thing you don't realize initially is who likes your place, right? There's an avatar for each place. And initially you might be like, oh, I think someone who's, but then you start to realize, oh, anyone who has a sectional couch won't want to rent this particular property, right? Or anyone. So then you start saying, hey, if you have a sectional couch, you might not want to consider this one, because I've had 3 people come through, and if you have a sectional couch, you're just not going to rent here, right?
Floor plan is really big.
Yeah.
When you're choosing a property, and it's bigger than you think.
Yeah.
And it may be reasonably priced, but if people can't make sense out of the rooms, like you've got a bedroom off the kitchen, or some quirky setup, people are like, or is this a bedroom? Is this an office? And they can't make sense out of it.
Yeah, and a tenant isn't going to replace their furniture just to rent your place. So if their furniture doesn't work for your place, that's actually an issue, right?
That's a big issue.
Like getting it up the stairs, getting it through the door, or like if you've got a place that'll fit a queen size or a king size bed. Very few tenants have king size beds, but that would be worth noting. Hey, our main bedroom, fits a king size bed, right? Like those little things you learn, but it really takes a couple rentals to know who likes it, who's going to stay there, and so forth. And then you can, you'll just be able to filter through tenants quicker. You'll be able to, really just not advertise, but, explain your place to people, right?
No, floor plan's big. We turn away any property that's got a quirky floor plan, because we can't rent them, or we can't get quality residents. Many times you can get a resident, but they're not the quality you want, because they're like, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take anything. You know?
That's,
you want the one that's got the high expectations that are, and so to do that, you've got to have the property that'll.
Yeah. People who have options. That's what we always talk about.
Yeah, we talk about like standards. Like your tenants, if your tenants have no standards and they'll rent anything, that means that you have no standards as a landlord if you'll rent to them, right? Yeah. Or for your property. Yeah. And I've taken on some properties that in lower income neighborhoods and stuff like that too, that are certainly, I would say, less than perfect. And you can still get good tenants, but you have to provide just like, you have to be better than the average for the area, right? That's really what it comes down to, because then you'll get the best tenants in, let's say, a low-income area or what have you.
So your portfolio is unique. I don't think we've touched on your portfolio yet. Western suburbs, single family is your bread and butter. And that's why you have a lot of accidental landlords. People aren't buying those houses and thinking rental most of the time.
That's right.
You want to just take us through a couple of your classic properties? Like, what does it rent for? Where is it located? So people can envision what your portfolio looks like.
Yeah. So first of all, I have properties from Stillwater to Waconia, Rogers to Apple Valley. Okay, so it's broad.
So you do a broad area.
The bulk of it, 60-70% of it is west of the river, and it tends to be in established neighborhoods or even new construction neighborhoods, single family homes that are, they're left behind from a move or they couldn't sell it or what have you. And so, but they're your classic 3-4 bedroom, houses. A fair amount of townhouses in that mix too. I would never buy an HOA property. I think that, it just takes a lot of control out. There can be some, ease of maintenance benefits, but I personally wouldn't do it. It's just a personal preference. Mm-hmm. And it's they're properties that generally. So we'll take on a property that needs work, okay? And we do something a little different as well, and that is that we'll do a rent assessment prior to a contract. And that's not one of our guys going around looking and saying, oh, you need paint and some flooring. We charge $300. It's refundable if you do business with us, okay? So you get that back, but you get about a 1/2-inch thick report. Every single outlet, every single door hinge, anything that's going to get in the way of renting this at top dollar, we will go in and assess that. And the reason we do that is we come back to you and say, it's going to cost $10,000 or $3,000 or nothing, but we want that out front before you contract with us, because we want you to know that here are our standards. Here's what it's going to take to get the highest rent. And in order to do that, you're going to need to cough up a few dollars. And if you're not willing to do that, then we're not your manager. Somebody else could likely take that on.
Or maybe the house is paid off and the high rent is not it doesn't make a difference to them. They get the risk of re-renovation and they'll hold it for 30 years. And, I'm assuming there's some people where that's not something that's needed. We
started implementing that because we would take on a client and then we would go and, we'd walk the property and do the report and say, and they're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. So in out of transparency, that's now we don't do that 100% of the time. I mean, somebody comes to us with a new construction or a 3-year-old house that's, lightly lived in or whatever. I mean, it's like, yeah, everything's gonna be fine. But you give me a 1950s house with, there's stuff that's wrong. I assure you there is, But that's the transparency. And
yeah. You mentioned early on, and I didn't want to interrupt the vibe because the conversation went in a different direction, but I want to bring you back to the wealth creation portion of your business. I'd like to hear, like, in concrete terms, what are some of the things that you guys do to focus on wealth creation for your clients? I mean, forget your portfolio for a second. What do you do for your clients to help create wealth?
Yeah. So assuming we didn't influence the purchase. So
okay, let's start there. And then we could talk about influencing the purchase as well.
If we didn't influence and then somebody brings the property to me, the first thing I do is the financial piece of it and make sure that they understand that they're getting into a business. And as a business, you have to think about the exit plan for the business as well.
Sure.
So if somebody comes to me and it's all about cash flow, I start talking about the 4 levers of real estate. There's actually, I think, 5.
5, yeah.
But the most important ones are, your cash flow, your depreciation, your tax benefits, your debt pay down, and the long-term appreciation. And if you chart those 4 pieces over 10 years, which one's the largest?
It's always appreciation. There is no other, and everyone else is wrong. Yes.
By 10x.
Yes.
And the even if you did cost seg and everything, you know the other three lines are like they're almost flat. You know, you'll get some tax benefits along the way, but you get recapture, and you'll get some debt pay down. And I'm not a big debt pay down guy. I'm like carry as much debt for as long as possible, but the cash flow, I see that as it's the fuel in the engine. It is not the income. If you think cash flow is going to be income, you're going to be disappointed for a couple of reasons. The average maintenance cost on rental real estate is 12% over time per year. Okay, and that takes into consideration
12% of what?
Of the gross rents.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure.
Not of the value of gross rents. And that takes into consideration the replacement of the furnace and the roof and the big tickets as well. But over time, it's 12% nationally. Sure. So that doesn't even include vacancy. Okay, and 1 month vacancy could be another 8%, right? Mm-hmm. So you're looking at a business and you're saying, okay, I'm going to cash flow whatever $1,200 a year. That's going to be my income, and I'm going to get 10 of those, and now I got 10,000 or 12,000 a year. What you fail to recognize is that that cash flow steps down when you got that water heater, and it steps down again so in the end it's almost zero. After 10 years you get to zero. So educating on the purpose of cash flow, it's the fuel to get you to the end zone. The end zone is the exit, and the exit is a doubling of your asset value after 10 years. If you compromise, if you start taking that cash flow out of the business and defer that maintenance, then your exit is going to be a smaller dollar because it's going to be a depleted, deferred maintenance. It's not going to be the property that you wanted.
You might cost yourself $40,000 for 12,000 hours worth of work
of gain. Yeah,
I agree.
So I think a big part of the wealth creation story is understanding that the real estate creates wealth if you do it well, but if you think it's an income source during that journey, you're going to compromise your wealth. Yeah. Now, doesn't
some
mean
people want the income source and are okay with that, and they're not building wealth. They're they're quitting their job, right? Yeah. And that's, but they're also not going. But that's a job. They're also not going to you.
That's an income.
Yes,
it's not wealth creation.
I totally agree. I'm just pointing that out for those people. Yeah. I like most of what you said, and I actually track with most of what you said. But here's where I would differ, and here's where I think people kind of, I guess I'd say, miss the boat. If you truly want to create the wealth and you want to really ramp that up, then the attitude that you keep a house and for forever or even for a long period of time isn't actually the best way to do it. And what I would just challenge to your method, which I totally agree with almost all of it, is that you don't have to keep it 10 years. You keep it 7 years and you sell it and you trade up. I mean, this doesn't work if you don't 1031 exchange, by the way, which I've made that mistake. I'm fully aware. I've learned from my mistake. But you sell it at the 7-year mark out of your 10-year window. You don't replace the water heater, which then does become profit. And you're selling it at even a slightly better condition because things haven't wore out quite as much, and you trade that equity up to another property that's even more, that has now the forced depreciation, which I assume is what you're calling the fifth lever, and you can ramp that up at a more of an S curve type model.
Well, my fifth lever is the estate plan. Okay, because you can take it to the grave and step it up.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you could do that.
1031.
You can do that, and that. So here's the thing, and believe me, you're a smarter businessman than me, so I'm not. But when it comes to real estate, I think about this stuff a lot, and you absolutely can keep the same equity. It doesn't have to be in the same product. If you think of a house more like inventory in a business rather than the business, I think you have a more well-rounded view of that, right? That's and the point. Equity inside of those properties, like property A can become property, let's say R, because you're going to build several between that, right? But property A can be property R. The equity from property A just goes into R and then explodes even more. And you're going from, your single LED bulbs to your factory LED bulbs. through the process, right?
Well, and that 7-year mark is where you're starting to pay, your interest deductions are starting to decrease. Your depreciation is starting to wear out.
Particularly if you cost seg, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so the 7-year mark makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that.
Anyway, I'm a big fan because I talk about
I
real estate
model
being a
over 10
business
years just for the sake of the math.
And you're not wrong. I'm talking conceptually here, by the way. Each property would be different. Some properties maybe should be 3 years, right? Because you get in, let's say, I don't think that you do this, but we have a lot of investors who do a lot of different things. They might get into a property that they need to get into because, number one, they can afford it, right? Yeah. It's not an ideal property, but it does, has a lot of upside, right? It is that old house that, with some TLC all of a sudden can have a real nice force appreciation and they can stabilize it and do well, but it's not a property they should own for 30 years. Well, they can get into that one, if they stabilize it and they get enough equity, and it's a good market, they might want to trade out after 3, not 10.
Timing
and some
really
might want to
good.
go 20, Yeah. And heck, my hunch, John, is that you're in a position where you wouldn't ever have to sell a property because you don't need to force the appreciation the same way.
I regret every piece of real estate I regret selling every piece of real estate I owned.
Yeah.
I look back and I'm like, why did I sell that? Why did I sell it? And there was probably a reason at the time, but having those assets to use as a bank is critical.
I would be curious. So I say that about 5 assets that I sold, that I'm disappointed that I sold those 5. But overall, I wouldn't say that about all of them. And I would just say this. If you sold them and you went to Vegas, you should regret that. But if you just sold them and you bought, again, property R is awesome. You didn't sell it. You just transfer your equity.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Like you didn't dispose of.
Right. There was probably a good
waste
reason.
The equity. You know what I mean?
There was probably a good reason I sold them, but I just look back today saying, having the more assets you have, the more ability you have to draw that tax free in loans, in debt to go do the next deal.
Yes.
You see, because that's all tax-free cash.
Yes.
Taking equity out.
Totally.
And so you could defer all your income taxes for a long time if you just owned assets and just use that as your bank.
Yep. Totally agree.
I'm going through cash out refis right now for the first time in my career, and it has been eye-opening for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know if I talked about this on the outro last week, but had to meet appraisers for these refis, and seeing everyone who listens to the show knows I just worked on the Hoarder House, as it was called, Bryn Mawr, 1915 build. Okay. Just it's a cool house now. But because I had to meet appraiser A and then appraiser B, I went right from that house to my 1962 Summit Hill, like a mini version of this house, tuck under garage, really cool renovation. And it was like the juxtaposition of those. It's like one of these is going to go in the next 2 or 3 years. And it was super eye-opening, like what types of assets do I want to hold long-term? And it really is like the mid-century product for me.
I agree with that. That's a great product to have. They're built, these are just fabulous houses. I mean, you do have drain issues, cast iron drain issues. That's usually the nemesis of these homes. Furnaces wear out. Those things, but you work through that. I love this mid-century house as a rental.
Mm-hmm. I've just become so much less attached to the homes that I own. The first, 7 to 10 properties I owned, I fell in love with in some way, and now I don't give a F. It's just a property. It's just inventory. It's no different than, I've got a car that I like today, but if I get a different car that suits me better, I'm going to have that car, and I'm not going to cry about this one. You know what I mean? And I realize, but like, you just don't fall in love with houses. They're just inventory.
But I'm in real estate because I love it.
Me too.
And it's like,
me too.
You have those flagship properties, but you're right. You technically, in the business sense, is correct. But like,
I care for more, and some that are easier to manage. Don't get me wrong.
My point
I'm not
was
saying that but I'm just saying you can't hug it like a bunny. Is what I'm getting.
Exactly. If you get emotionally attached, that's the guy that wants to participate in the property management. Yes. Is when they love the house too much. and not treat it as a business.
And they get too high when things go well and too low when things get down, right? Like, like you hear that person, that we always hear about the 2 a.m. toilet, but just the person who has the down thing, like we're all going to have a property that has something that sucks on it, right?
Yeah.
And when you have this emotional bond to it rather than a business, and I mean in a real meaningful way. I have properties I like, don't get me wrong, but then you treat them differently and you make poor decisions because of it, right? It might be like putting too much into it, or probably not enough in that case, but maybe you don't put enough into the property you don't like, and it doesn't perform as well. So
we see it both ways.
Yeah,
too much or too little.
Yeah.
But this mid-century house is the classic workhorse property. That's why I like this class, because it's the workhorse in the rental market.
And I would say this: I wasn't even getting that's a characteristic rather than a house, right?
Yeah.
Now falling in love with the characteristic is a great thing, right? You can do that over and over and
That's
over
my
again,
point.
right? Yeah. And I know that I certainly wasn't ripping on you, but it's something that I see people make bad choices on houses because of falling in love with it, or saying I'm never going to sell it. Like, never going to sell it unless, what if that buys you then the crown jewel? Sell three houses yield, you like to get whatever, I don't know,
better yield, better performance.
Exactly.
It's
you name
business.
It. Yep.
Yeah.
And keep an open mind. Like, even though my focus is mid-century, I'm not going to have my blinders up. Probably the nicest property I own is a 1900 build. And it was underpinned, totally gutted in the early 2000s.
Is that Dayton?
Yeah.
That's Dayton.
Yeah.
Dayton's the nicest property,
I think
nicest
so. That's
triplex
what I
ever.
Yeah.
So anyways, just don't be so black and white about things in general.
Yeah.
What do you think about?
But have what works for you, right?
Yeah.
And if that is the mid-century, by all means, lean into that, right? Yeah.
We're working with people trying to get into real estate investing today. It's obviously, every few years has new challenges. What do you think? If your nephew calls you, hey, I want to start buying real estate in the Twin Cities, what are you telling him?
Well, the challenge in this market now, I mean, maintenance costs have gone up, and I can't cite the source off the top of my head, but I've got a graph at the office that shows, inflation's up like 20% or something for the last 5 years, compounded.
Is it really?
Yeah, 2020.
If you compound it, I suppose.
Compounded.
Yeah, it has to be, because it was in the 7% range for a few,
20, 25%.
Yeah.
But the maintenance cost is up like 70%. I mean, it's like the cost of flooring, the cost of labor, the cost of all the just the stuff you need, to either renovate, but even to repair. And so, that's a reality that is hard to deal with in today's market, when you're trying to cash flow these things. So finding a house so there are some things you can do about that, but so finding a new build, a new construction, I think there's a lot of value in doing that purchase right now. But also, for instance, like in September, we negotiated our furnace contracts for the year. And the last thing you want to do is in January, when the furnace is out, is to call a guy. And, because we get, I call my landlords and I say, look, the furnace is out. I got some temporary heaters over there, so we're okay for a day or two. But, what do you want to do? And they're like, well, we got to get a furnace. And so, I've got my vendors that I'm happy with and proud of and good, and then, the owner's always like, well, let me send my guy over. But the last thing you want to do is in January, call a guy, because he's busy, right? He's already got 5 other jobs. He's going to drop it to do you a favor. So you're going to pay
for less price.
For less price. Yeah. So we learned a few years ago that if we start in September and negotiate, because last year I did 14 furnaces. Okay. And I went to my vendors the prior year, luckily, and I said, look, I don't know how many furnaces I'm going to need, but here's 4 different BTUs it's pretty common because we inventory all of our properties, so we know what the furnaces are. But here's our common set.
We used to do that, and I stopped doing it. I need to get back to it.
We negotiated the rates, and we're 25% less than if we would have done it in January. And so now when somebody calls me in January and they want, their 2 or 3 bids, it's like, I already got it. And by the way, here it is. And that it saves time and saves money. But that's how you tackle that piece of it. And one other thing that can be done. So
real quick. What are you paying for a furnace with your discount?
Well, I mean, what BTU? I mean, what high efficiency, low efficiency? I mean, we were doing
median. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know, 3,200 to 3,800 for,
That's good.
For the furnace itself?
For something that's like 4,000 to 4,200. Yeah, no, furnace
that's
and
with
labor.
install.
Oh, labor. Yeah, okay.
Furnace and labor. I mean, it doesn't include, reconfiguring the ductwork or whatever.
Sure.
But, just the base. And then, of course, the cost would include reconfiguring the ductwork if they had to, so that would be extra, of course. But if you negotiate that.
I think I normally pay closer to 5. Yeah.
5 is pretty typical with most.
Close to that, yeah.
Most out there. But you can get $600,000-$800,000 off if you just do it. And we have some bulk benefits too.
Exactly.
Yeah. I guess I'm just thinking of a job I did. I got $12,000 for furnace and AC times 2, but I also paid $18,000 for that same thing in a different property, probably different situation, right?
Yeah.
So
it's a good deal.
So $9,000 each or $6,000 each,
Well, $3,000 per unit is pretty much bottom of the market. That's like side job guy on a Sunday.
Yeah. So, and our guys aren't side jobs. Ours are the
I would
real
expect
deal
them to not be. Yeah.
People you'd recognize, and a lot of commercial. We do a lot of commercial time and material work. We don't pay vendors on their fixed price, and it's just that we feel that they're just robbing us. But
I cut you off. Sorry, with the furnace question. You were.
We hit. Every January, I've got about 40 different maintenance issues that could go wrong in a house. Dryer vent cleaning, sump pumps, gutter cleaning, driveway resealing. I mean, there's like 40 things, and I send it out to all 300 of my clients. I'm like, this year, what do you guys want to do? Okay, and so I'll get like 40 or 50 orders for dryer vent cleaning. And so then I take that to my top 3 dryer vent guys, and I say, okay, I got 50 cleanings for you. Now what is my rate?
Yeah. And that's going to be a different rate than what I get because I call
the nice thing,
years,
but also they can, it's fill work for them.
Yeah.
So they don't have to do it when I call. When you call, you're expecting them to schedule it and come out.
Away, yeah.
I give them 40. I said, you got 45 days to get this done. Just fill it in. So we'll cut the cost in half and then pass the savings on to our clients as well. So, if you think about, all that work that you need, that's just regular maintenance on a house, and if you can get it done at significantly less, that's how a good property manager can really add value, is if they're thinking about this differently. I don't know any other property manager out there that pre-negotiates their water heaters, furnaces, and that in the off season. I don't know anybody that has a preventative maintenance plan that's designed for bulk purchase, getting in on a volume deal.
Right.
They're waiting for the failure, and then they're calling somebody and rolling the dice on what the rate is.
Yep.
That's what frustrates owners, because they're like, why did you spend $500 for a garbage disposal?
Why did you put in a garbage disposal? Well, is what I would say.
Why didn't we just take it out?
Yeah. We've removed them from all of our properties. And if you haven't heard, if you want to know, if you talk to any of the Roto-Rooter guys or even plumbers, they'll all tell you remove them. Don't let your tenants have them. It's an excuse for them to clog your drains.
The craziest thing that I had come out of a garbage disposal was a lobster. So somebody had lobster dinner, cooked the tail, and shoved the head and the claws down the garbage disposal, and then thought it was my fault. So they didn't want to pay the bill.
It was a tenant?
It was a tenant. Tenant called in a failed garbage disposal. We sent our guys over there. We've got our in-house guys, and they go over there, and they're like, you're not going to believe this one. I got the picture of the guy holding up the...
Yeah, you just got to tell people, don't put it down the drain or you're going to be paying for it. And don't use, there's no garbage. We remove them. If you're a landlord, trust me, I've talked to enough people, remove them.
And the ice dispensers.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Water and ice on the fridge. I don't give microwaves out either.
I just think, I think that's so convenient myself that I have a hard time removing it. But yes, I do understand the risk. There is a risk. Especially from
when you sold your portfolio, John, what did it look like? Because you sold off a lot of stuff. In what year?
So I had the motel that I converted. Did we talk about the motel?
Yeah, in
yes,
Wisconsin, right?
in Florida.
In Naples.
Oh,
And so I had that for about 5 or 6 years, and I was really deep into the public company thing, and I got rid of that. I got rid of a couple of the other single families that I had, and then when I got back here in 2018 or 19, I started buying up again. So I bought 2 duplexes in Hopkins and did some cosmetic upgrades on that. Took the rents from $1,300 a month to $2,000 a month, and just did that through awesome experience. You know, residents will pay more rent and they will renew their lease if you just give them an awesome management experience. They just will. They won't. They
don't want to chance it with someone else.
A lot, and your A+ people won't chance it with a do-it-yourselfer, because they don't know if they're going to be around that night to fix the thing, whatever. You know, we have 24/7. So we were able to really drive rents, and that deal worked out real well until about a year ago when I sold those duplexes, because my taxes doubled, the property taxes. What else happened on that? The insurance tripled almost.
Yeah, I was gonna say at least. Doubled.
And then then my loan recycled from a 3% to a 7% or whatever it was, because I was on a commercial loan, and I'm like, oh boy, this starts to not make sense. So I sold those, and that's when I started buying the infill lots and building up. So I got 8. I'm down to 4 buildings right now. I got 2 new constructions that we just finished, and that was at HPR. I don't know, we talked about that, but
I don't think we got it on the pod. The infill lots and the new construction stuff.
Yeah, it might be the
Why
very
don't you fill
beginning of the
people
pod.
in?
We started talking before we.
I hit record in the middle.
So because it's hard to find performing real estate right now to go acquire. It's just tough. And so
it is, but I want to say, because I want everyone to know, we find them every month for people.
No, they're out
If you
there.
look hard enough, you can find them.
They're out there. Yeah, and it does take a lot of work. I chose, because I had an opportunity on a lot to do new construction. And so we platted it as an HPR and built 2 houses on the lot. And so,
can you explain what HPR? That's an acronym I'm not familiar with.
An HPR is it's a horizontal property regime.
Okay.
So essentially, if you think about out in the suburbs where a developer buys up 600 acres, well, think about that same process, but on 1 acre, okay, or 2 acres. You get an infill lot. Mm-hmm. And you plat it as a homeowner association, and you carve out 2 PIDs and a common PID, and you basically build your own little HOA. But it allows 2 separate houses separated.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's common area in between, and you build them tall and skinny, and then that's how. So that's what we did.
In that city, did they require that you can only build on an acre? Was that the deal? So that you could put, in this case, you can put 2 houses on 1 acre instead of only 1 house on 1 acre? Is that okay? Yeah. So that would be like a way around it, so to speak?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we've got, I got a commercial building, a small commercial. It's the one I run my office out of, but it's 2 units. So
downtown Hopkins, cool location.
Downtown Hopkins. We bought it was funny because I've been driving by that place. It was an old rundown trinket shop, and there was a for sale sign up, and it was like right downtown, right in the middle of it was on the edge of the historical district. I'm like, I ought to buy that. And I was busy and I never bought it. And then the sign came down. I'm like, I missed it. And then about a month later, a different sign goes up. And I'm like, oh, I should but I was in the middle and I had these duplexes going on and stuff. I'm like, I don't know, but I should go do that. And then the sign goes down. I'm like, oh, I missed it. About a month or two later, a third sign goes up, and I'm like, all right, I got to go find out what's going on. So I go down, I got some friends in the city hall, the inspectors. I'm like, what's going on? What's wrong with that property? They're like, nothing's wrong with it. I'm like, well, why can't they close? They said, well, the problem is the zoning. You can't have an office in that house because it's zoned as a duplex. And you can have retail, but not office space.
What? Doesn't make any sense.
Well, I said, oh, okay. And they said, well, but the city council's meeting in 2 weeks and they're taking it up and they're going to rezone it. I'm like, does the seller know this? And they like, I don't know if they know. So I put in an offer contingent only on due diligence, just enough of
Giving
a period
enough time?
just to get through the city council meeting.
Yeah.
And then they rezoned it and then I closed on it. But I had lowballed it considerably.
So it's a duplex. It's not a commercial looking building.
No, it looks like a house.
Residential house.
It's right in. It's like the only house in Main Street in Hopkins.
Like
And
1920s, maybe?
1936.
Okay.
And it was an up-down duplex. And so we bought it and kind of gutted it, did a light gut on it because I can tear it down and build a 4-story mixed-use building on that same lot. So that's our exit on that deal.
Okay.
Very cool.
Is it open? Like, could we have people there?
What do you
Like
mean?
30 people there?
Do you want to host a meetup?
Oh yeah, no, we could do that. No, it's got open space. We took out walls and it's what you'd think. It's right next to the brew pub too, which is.
Well, let's have a property management summit in February or January, something like that.
That would be really fun, John. Yeah, property management best practices,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Give out maintenance lists, talk about like what you look at a property, that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
We have to give value, by the way.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, the brew pub's next door and the coffee shop's across the street. And
Cool. What's up? Somebody's selling a ton in Hopkins right now, or they attempted to. Isn't there a seller who listed like 5, 6, 7 small multifamilies in Hopkins this year? Are you aware of that at all?
in the Avenues area there or around
Around like Van Buren? I've sold a couple.
over on that end.
You're not aware of it, huh?
I'm not aware of that. I don't know. Are there a lot of multis over there? There's a couple of rows of duplexes and
Van Buren, I have a pending twin home on Van Buren right now.
Yeah.
The duplex 2 houses down, I've sold twice. Yeah, it's a mix. Actually, this guy.
It's an easy neighborhood to rent too. We've had really good luck in that neighborhood.
You didn't buy 337, did you?
No.
Van Buren? No. This guy bought it in like 2021 for like 400, and then he totally trashed the place. And then he sold it for 489 14 months later. This was between like 2021.
After he trashed it?
After he trashed it. Yeah, so he made the property in worse condition, but he rode from 2021 to 2022 and, got it at a good price, and then somebody overpaid for it. And so a few things went his way.
That's real estate, though. I mean, sometimes you get real lucky. I bought a house, the house I lived in right up here on by St. Thomas University. We paid when I was a kid. I was 92 or something. I bought that for $220,000, and less than 10 years later, when I sold it, we sold it for $925,000, and that was that 2008. It was run up to before that.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get really lucky.
So right now, between Van Buren and Shadyside Circle, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 active duplexes on the MLS in Hopkins. So it's got to be the same owner.
Yeah.
There's no way that's a coincidence.
Not
171.
to mention there probably weren't 5 active duplexes sold the previous calendar year.
No way.
Because we did the stats, and I don't think there was. I think it was more like 2 or 3.
So if you're listening to this, Ryan Luthi sold one recently over there.
Yeah, it
What's
was
up,
that
Ryan?
one was a short-term rental. Ryan's going to be on the
29.
pod.
Did you do the financing on that one?
Are those purpose-built duplexes, or are they houses that were converted?
The one I just mentioned that Ryan sold was not, but most of these are side-by-sides.
Yeah.
Those
Those are awesome investments.
So this guy, the one I've sold twice, he's trying to get $550 for it now. $2,500 finished, 6-bedroom, 2-bath.
Do they list the rents?
I bet they're under $2,000 a month. Well, maybe not. Annual gross income is of 47, so that's like 4,000. That's like 2,000.
2,000 aside.
2350.
That's too much. Anyways.
All right.
Yeah. What's next for you, John? We're about at the top of the hour. We appreciate you giving us the time. Do you any goals for growth or anything that you're working on that's exciting, and whether personal life or business?
Well, I mean, on the business, my intention all along was to have that premier property management company that was focused on all the right things. And, sure, we make mistakes, and, I'm sure we've irritated people along the way somewhere. I mean, it's hard not to do it in property management, but, so continuing to build that business that is just gives an awesome experience to the residents. Because if the residents are happy, the landlords are happy. That's usually the case.
And the residents will be more forgiving, right? If the heat goes out and you've been awesome the whole time and you bring heaters, they're going to give you a day or two to fix it. They might not be super happy, but they're not going to be belligerent, right?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Residents just want respect. That's what we've concluded. We used to leave, coffee cups and stuff at move-in day, and I don't think I ever got a thank you letter for the coffee cups and the brownies or the cookies or whatever it is we gave them. But you know what? You fix their stuff fast. We get 5-star reviews because of that. And it's all they want is that respect. Mm-hmm. So that's a big part of it, is just building a business that I can be proud of, and that my team can be proud of, and that my clients and residents can be proud of. Hey, we're working with RPM. We're doing, they're taking care of us. So that's on the business side. I think, continuing to build out investments. Like I said, I see my real estate. I'm an asset guy. I'm not an income guy. I want growth in assets because I see that as a way to get cash tax free, just by refinancing and building up in that.
Yeah.
And because I don't want to pay any taxes. I mean, I don't want to ever. I haven't paid taxes legally in 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's not a lot of people can say that. And so I'm continuing to do that. And then just personally, just build up my team so that I can, still enjoy life and.
You still like Florida?
Yeah, I like Florida. I think I'm going to get a little place again down there. I got some family down there, but I wouldn't want to live there. But I need a place to visit. Like a day like today, where the snow is getting in my shoes when I walk through the slop out in the.
Ironically, a day like today just makes me want to go for more snow.
I
want to fly to Colorado.
Tim's got a place in Keystone.
Yeah, I see this and I'm like, oh my gosh! The other day I started looking up cheap flights to see if I could get there for like 3 days. I couldn't find cheap flights, unfortunately. But if I would have found like an $80 each way flight,
you can't get cheap flights to Florida this time of year.
Yeah,
Frontier. He's talking Denver. You can get
You can sometimes, but it wasn't. It was just it was last minute too. I was like, I was going to fly up the next day. You know what I mean? Yeah. They got 24 inches in in a weekend.
Are we gonna do like an elite TCREI like VIP summit in Keystone someday?
I've thought about it. I kind of would like to. Yeah. But it's got to be something that's paid for. Like we can't front that bill. Like someone.
No, you will have to write a check.
Yeah.
Well, cool, John. Thanks for doing this, man. Thank you for sponsoring the pod. Obviously, anyone who listened to this conversation, if you're considering property management, I have firsthand experience working with John on a complex deal that had a lot of moving parts and things that need to be addressed. And you're the opposite of me, and that's what I want in a property manager. Type A, organized systems. That's what you need.
John, and you do offer a benefit to our listeners, right? If they engage you in services, can you just explain real quick what you're?
Yeah, so I would offer a $300 credit against maintenance, and the reason I say it that way is because a lot of people are like, "Well, I want a discount on your management services," and we don't discount our management services, and quite frankly, you don't want a discount on our management services because we want to give you an awesome experience.
Yeah, and you don't want to, yeah.
But because I have in-house maintenance staff, I have vans and techs, I can offer the same level of service and use it during their fill time when maybe it's a little slow or they got an extra slot in the day. So that gives more benefit. And if you're a true investor, maintenance is your biggest concern anyway. So let me help you on the maintenance. So we'll give you $300 credit against your maintenance.
And any real estate agents who are listening, great partner to have it for in the referral space. Yeah. You do something for agents, don't you?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, it's go to our website and you'll see the program. We have different levels because if all you're going to do is like flip me a name, that's hard to work with, because it's
where
like,
you have to sell them now.
Well, and then I got to go find them, get them on the phone, whatever. But if you set up a coffee or a joint phone call or something, and you do a little legwork on that, then you get a little bit more. And
that's smart.
So it graduates based on how involved you are. If you post a link on your social, we'll even give you, for every lead that comes in, just inquiry, we'll give you, I think it's like $50 or something for that. So depending on how much you commit to us, we will compensate. Because what I'm trying to do is build a relationship with a few really smart people. I don't want 500 people just looking for a handout. Let's build a relationship. I'll make it financially worth your while, and you'll make it financially worth our while. And since my company doesn't sell real estate, that way it's mutual.
Yep. Well, and any agent listening, if you're looking to get like the best referral deal possible from your property manager, that's a silly endeavor. You're picking up nickels, right?
Yeah. But then you're sending to the guy who will pay $600 instead of $500, but actually won't answer the phone.
You need someone to
piss
make you
off
look
all your
good.
clients, and then you lose a commission.
Exactly. Exactly.
And then they'll steal your sale on the way out.
Yeah, because they're almost all realtors. Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, John. Appreciate it,
John,
man.
thank you.
It's great talking to you guys. Really enjoyed it. Good luck with everything.
Appreciate it.
So what's going on today, Tim?
Oh, man. Well, last show before Christmas that we record anyway. And so we're going to record one.
We're doing two next week.
We're recording one next week. Yeah, okay. Anyway, lots kind of going on. A lot of business still happening in the Twin Cities, actually. Wrapping up a very good year. But one thing that was interesting is after I drove to record the podcast while we were waiting, I did a little work, popped up on my computer, and Fannie Mae made an announcement today that they have changed their accessory dwelling unit rules, the ADU rules. And so previously, most people didn't even probably know this, but you could only have an ADU if the property was a single family. If it wasn't a single family, you started to have issues. They would close some if it was a multi-unit, but you couldn't count the rent, and it had to be this, that, and the other thing. They just changed all that today. You can have up to 4 units on a property, and one of them be and have multiple ADUs on a multi-unit property.
But still only 4 total.
It can never exceed 4 units. So a fourplex could not have an ADU, but a triplex could have one unit. A duplex could have 2 1 units. Or I guess, it doesn't say this, but I would think that you could potentially have an ADU that was a duplex. At least it leaves that door open. Remember this, though, there has to be a dominant property in an ADU setup. They can't be equals. So that would probably rule a lot of those out. But yeah, interesting. They're also allowing them on on manufactured properties that didn't exist before. So just easier to do deals. There were some other things that were easier, but I think it'd be more subtle and less interesting to our buyers to talk about those.
Cool. Yeah, we don't see a ton of ADUs in our market. Very popular in more expensive markets.
Yeah.
But this stuff is important because a few times a year we come across a deal where it's like, oh, it's a duplex and then there's an extra house on the property, or goofy little deals like this seem really great, and then you realize how hard they can be to finance.
Yeah.
Which that's 90% of your buyer pool for something like that is using financing. So this is a really big deal for people who want to make those investments.
Believe it or not, it just increased the price of all those properties. That's what really happened.
Totally.
Because
Yeah.
what would normally happen on that situation you talked about is I would go in as an investor and say, you can't finance this any other way. I know the one way to finance it. I'll buy it, but you can't sell this to the general public, so I'm going to pay less.
Right.
Some version of that, right? And that argument doesn't hold as much weight now because it can be financed through more conventional means. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are you doing anything exciting with any updates with your duplex deal?
Got some quotes. Still working out some quotes. The end quote was a lot higher than I thought it was going to be, and so I'm working through another contractor.
What do you need to quote? Like, what part of the construction process are you in right now? Or what's
On the
state?
the duplex deal is it's mostly finishing work. There's obviously some finishing work, meaning like all the lights have to be installed. The majority of the trim has to be installed, but not in the rooms that have carpet, which all the bedrooms have carpet. You got, transition strips. You've got a little bit of cabinet work, very minor, like one cabinet getting moved.
Sure.
A dishwasher being installed, some trim cabinet pieces put in, countertops, sinks in the kitchens, faucets everywhere, repaint, fire up HVAC, install AC. And then all the common areas completely done. Like the common areas are unfinished in every way, but what I just mentioned in 2 units has to be done in both units. And then like you have to do all the flooring, the walls, the trim, even the handrails are not done. Yeah. So, and everything has to be done, to code and inspected and stuff. So that adds to the expense, of course. If we were just doing the work on our own, I think we're talking like about $25,000 to $30,000 in dollars.
Sure.
But with code and compliance and everything, I'm kind of in my head, I'm estimating 50. The number I got came in well above that. Not double, but closer to double than
Wow.
that. Yeah.
Cool. And what does your timeline look like? Are you closed?
No.
Okay.
Timeline is, that other contractor said 3 to 4 weeks. That looks like a very reasonable time frame to me. But I think that if I buy it because of the time of year it is and the other projects I have going on, that it'll probably sit for 1 month with no work being done. And then it'll be one for the crew to start, let's call it 6 weeks from today.
Nice. I wrote an offer 2 days ago. I posted this on, if you guys don't follow me on Instagram, Adam Tafel RE. I don't post like all the time, but I post walkthroughs. And I walked like 6 MLS listed single family homes on Sunday and posted my walkthroughs, just trying to find value add deals here because there's still stale listings sitting out there. And I think this is a great week to just shoot out some low balls, see what happens. So I ended up, it ended up being a Chris Lindahl owned property. So This guy's not going to accept a low ball. It's just, he doesn't have the holding cost. Really, you need someone who is very motivated to sell. But I found this little single family 1930s home in West 7th. Offered him 202, would have an ARV of like 3.25, but the project would have been 40, so it would fit, a cash out refi model. It'd be a good property to hold on to. Didn't get it. So going back out,
I know some people close to Chris, and his main source of income now is flipping properties. That's where he makes his money. Like his main money.
His brokerage isn't making him the most? Really?
Oh, you know what broker? I mean,
it's hard to make
advertising
money
costs are. I mean, I'm not saying his brokerage doesn't make him any money. He makes insane money flipping properties. That's maybe a better way to put it. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think his source? If you had to guess, the source of his leads, like. He's working with wholesalers?
If I had to guess, it's a combination of just traditional listing appointments and his guaranteed offer program.
Yeah.
I'm on his wholesale list. He wholesales properties. Mm-hmm. Like they're clearing. I bet you I have received this month at least 6 properties that he's selling. At least 6. He's just wholesaling. Yeah. I'm not talking about like never, just got them under contract and resell them before they ever touch the market.
I'm surprised a guy like that would want to, it's exposure.
His list is not branded Chris Lindahl. You actually have to know his he uses independent third-party contractors that are exclusive to him.
Sure. Understood.
That are branded something completely different.
Yeah. It's not really him legally, technically.
Yes, correct.
If you're an agent, you have to.
But that's where the deal came from, was through his companies. Yeah. And again, when we talk about Chris Lindahl now, we could also say Remax or Target or whatever. Chris Lindahl is a whole company branded. Like, is Chris looking at these properties? No. Is Chris the one pricing them? No. You know what I mean? Like, no. He owns it and controls it, and he manages it like a CEO, but he's not doing the day-to-day. He's not selling these properties to me, nor is he fixing them up.
Sure.
Yeah.
I met a builder here this morning. He's this house up the road that I kind of briefly mentioned on the last podcast. It'd be a new big project for me. Basically, corner of Edgecombe and Snelling over there. But if I don't get it,
it's a new construction, or you're buying a lot and then you're going to build a house and sell it, or what is it?
I want to buy this house. It's a distressed, slightly bigger version of this house we're sitting in now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
On a perhaps slightly cooler street, just right up the street. It'd be a primary, but it's an investment. Think of it as like a live and flip, I guess. And I'm not going my normal contractor route for something like this. Hire one of the bigger builders that does a lot of work in the neighborhood.
I see.
But if I don't get it, I was talking to an agent friend who does a lot of business in the neighborhood. I might be able to pull off something similar with this house, doing like a big, basically just like a huge, moving the kitchen to that side, opening it all up, lowering the basement floor. It all can be done at a certain price. And
chances are, I think if you take that same money and put it in a different property, you make as much or more, though, is my guess, right? Because you're talking huge money to lower basement floors, move kitchens from one side of a house to another.
Yeah, I'm talking like $400,000 probably. Yeah. But the ARV is probably a nice margin on that, believe it or not. Because there's plenty of comps in like the 1.5, 1.7 range.
Got it. So that is a pretty big spread. Yeah.
It could work. Anyways, it was cool to talk to. I've never really, I don't have much to do with like, build higher end builders. And that was fun this morning walking through with him. He completely just opened my eyes to things that the things that I thought I should do would have been complete wastes of money.
Nice. Well, can you give us an example?
Addition. I was thinking addition to make it feel bigger. And he's really like, no, in this house, the layout, you're just wasting too much space the way you have this home laid out. And the addition would prevent sunlight from hitting everywhere on the main floor. The value just isn't there for an addition. It's more so the people that built this house have closets everywhere. It's a little like it just could be more open.
Sure.
And same with the basement. Like half of the basement is like closets and little storage spaces. So
interesting.
I was thinking addition. He was very anti-addition. No, we just need to use the space better in a better method.
Nice.
So anyways, it'll allow me to not get too excited about this deal down the street, right?
Yeah. Not hug it like a bunny?
I'm not going to hug it like a bunny. Dude, I am so guilty of hugging bunnies when it comes to this. So anyways, stay tuned for that. I think I'll be able to talk about this deal after Christmas, the distressed deal. But I've been scoping out like higher end comps. Like there's a listing at 1.7 down the street that original joists and foundation, everything else new on top of it. Just trying to understand that market a little bit more. Because why couldn't I do deals like that at some point?
John's doing them, and technically I am now too.
Yeah.
So, right? I mean, in a way.
Yeah. So, well, cool. Thanks so much to John Scribante for being on the show. Oh, we're hosting.
Yeah, we've got a meetup. We just scheduled after the recording of the podcast. We scheduled a meetup for February 11th, 6 p.m. over in Hopkins. We're going to meet at John's office, then walk across to a brewery that's connected about 15 to 20 minutes in.
Yeah, Bear Cave Brewing is where we're going to be. I guess maybe we'll change that address if we have to.
Yeah, we're going to start at his office, we thought, and then go to Bear Cave, or at least we think. Anyway, the most current will be in Meetup. So if you're ever wondering, we're always going to have the correct thing in Meetup.
Well, thanks so much to Network Title, Shook Rentals, and RPM Viking for sponsoring the show. Please like, subscribe, share. Hey, I've gotten a handful of texts from people showing me that their top fan badge from Spotify.
Yeah.
Nate, Dan, and somebody else.
The third one you got,
Dylan.
I wasn't involved. Oh, Dylan, yep. So Dan, I was involved in. Dan
Mannion.
Oh, okay.
Nate Hood.
Okay. Yep.
And Dylan Johnson.
Yep.
Shout out, you guys. You're the best. And super cool to see that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for listening. We really appreciate it. And please share with your friends.
See ya.
That's it for today's show. You can visit the Twin Cities Real Estate Investing.com website for show notes, tips, tricks, and other local real estate investing information. Adam and Tim would like to meet with you. To schedule a one-on-one meeting with either Adam or Tim, go to TwinCitiesRealEstateInvesting.com/schedule.